Welcome. In front of me is a HUAWEI Nova Y61, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview of this device. Now, before I get started, I'm going to quickly mention that this device did actually come with its own earbuds as a package. So because right now it's like a pre-order time, if you order like right about now, you should be able to pick it up with the FreeBuds 5i, which I'll also unbox in a separate video. So anyway, let's just jump straight to this one. We do have a couple little seals right here, so let's cut them off. And let's get inside the box. So in here we got a little bit of a cheap kind of packaging to save on costs, which is okay, as long as the product is okay. And there's our phone. Then we got the typical writing right here, or printout, however you want to call it. So this just gives us a bit of an information that we can use the the app gallery or whatever it's called to download apps instead of the Play Store, because obviously we don't have Play Store on this device. So that's one of the ways. So anyway, just get going with it. Give me a second. Okay, so and here let's see if we have a case. So there we go. It's basically all we get in a package. Whoa, I just fell off. There we go, picked up. So jumping to it, let's get a look. We have this is a, what is it? 25.5 watt charger. Hopefully you can maybe see it right here if it catches focus. There we go, 22.5 max. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, it's already nice that we actually have a charger included with the device. Then we get a silicone case, pretty flimsy one, but still should protect your device a little bit better than nothing at all. And going into the phone itself, we have a Type-C port, headphone jack, we have microphone, speaker. I believe this is a speaker, and it would look like there is no speaker at the bottom unless it's in the Type-C port, which would be pretty bad. Anyway, I'm gonna turn it on and we can get a look at the display, which is a 6.5-inch display with a 720p resolution. And while it's also turning on, I'm gonna quickly pop it in here just so you can see how it looks like with the case on. As you can see, the bezels protrude a little bit, so you can do this and it shouldn't break at all. It shouldn't even touch the screen actually. So there we go. Now while it's turning on, let's give it a moment so we can see the UI. This will be, I believe, the typical HUAWEI OS, whatever it's called. I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's not running on Android. So at least I think, let me check. I think this is strictly running on Harmony OS, but can really find info about it. It looks like Harmony OS with the bubbles and stuff. Normally Android has just a typical list of languages to choose from. Harmony OS decided to go a little bit funky and give you the actual like bubbles, which are super disorienting, and I personally don't like them. Anyway, another great thing, HUAWEI. Why? I wanna tell you what you can do with this, which is go shove it somewhere. There's no reason for me to need to connect to Wi-Fi while going through the setup. The warranty is provided by the seller, so I don't really care what else you want to do here, but strictly because of this alone, with a need to provide a purchase, some kind of like purchase verification, so receipt or anything like that, me being forced to connect to network is an absolute absurdity. I shouldn't need to do that. I should, as a brand new device, be able to fully set it up without needing to connect to anything. But you know, China needs to gather data. Winnie the Pooh wants all your personal data. And without that, you can't actually use the phone, which is absolutely, I think, stupid. Anyway, I'm gonna connect to some kind of network so they can start spying on me. There we go. Come on. If you already need to connect to network, you ought to do it a little bit faster. Apparently I wrote it incorrectly. Yep, I did write it incorrectly. There we go. Okay, so now we can actually finish up the setup and get a look at the Harmony OS UI if you have never seen it before. So, right, they have a HUAWEI ID, which is basically a copy of what Apple has and also what Samsung is trying to have. Obviously here it's more similar to like Apple, just because they have their own place or their own store right now, and obviously it's probably best that you would create an account if you're planning to use this device. I'm not, so I'm just gonna skip it now, just for everybody who doesn't know. You actually can skip these things, but they're not shown to you in any kind of normal sense, and they're actually hidden from you and also not described. So you want to skip without signing in? We're gonna have don't have a HUAWEI ID or forgot your password. Yes, that's also where you can set it up without actually logging in. Maybe later. Maybe later would have been nice if you would have included that at the title of this section. And a leave. Now, if I'm sounding like I'm just kind of ragging on this device, it's because I genuinely don't like the approach that Huawei goes with when it comes down to this kind of intrusive setups and just overall intrusive OS and all that stuff. I like to have versatility in my system, options, while Huawei does the exact opposite. They take what options you have and just removes them. And I have used a Huawei device running Android for several years as a Mate 20 Pro user. So I would say I did have a decent experience with that. Now, moving on here, we have some nice, another thing that I want to just kind of point out. This kind of turned up into a setup, but we have the odd ID statistics and personalized aids. Let's just remove these because no need for you to be spied on. Disable. Actually, we can also disable this one. Yep. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of go through it quickly because there's nothing else really worth mentioning here. Another thing, keep your software up to date. You can see this blue button. You'd usually have two options here, right? No, but Huawei, it's right here in the blue text. Update manually because go F yourself. Don't enable. There we go. Set up as new. And try gestures. I've been trying them for half a decade now. I don't need to do that anymore. And finish. Apparently that's not finishing. And there we go. So there is ROS. It took a little bit longer. One thing that they do in a most annoying fashion is they split your notifications into two sections. Google tried that at one point. I don't think it was received too well. That's why they probably went back on it. But Huawei, even the Mate 20 Pro, which I used to have basically both the toggles and notifications together. Then they updated to MIUI 11, I think it was, while still being on Android 9 when they split it and didn't give you the option to revert back to, I don't know, combined option where you have both of them. And they just kept it that way because why would you have options when you can just not have them at all? So yeah. Now talking about something else than OS, which I personally don't like, that's why I'm kind of ragging on it, we can go into the specs of this device. The OS, no matter what the price, will be the same if it's a Huawei. So if you're not a fan of it like I am, then most likely no matter how much you pay for the device, you will never like it. I do want to point that out. But if you don't mind it, if you don't mind these subtle things that personally infuriate me after years of using Huawei itself, so if you don't mind it, then that's great. You can use this phone without a problem. And the question is now, is the device actually worth the money? And this one, Costs, well, in a budget range, it's about 190 euros. And for that 190 euros, we have a device that comes with a 720p display by 1600. So it's basically a HD display, kind of low, especially for the device that was released at the end of 2022. Normally, devices have about 1080p resolution, which is significantly higher than this. Additionally, we don't have any kind of high refresh rate. We have a 269 pixels per inch, so kind of low. Running EMUI 12 without Google Play Store, obviously. We have 64 gigs of built-in storage in both cases, though you have an option between 4 or 6 gigs of RAM. Now, the one that I have right here comes with 4 gigs of RAM, so this is the cheaper one. And when it comes down to cameras at the back, you can see we have a triple camera setup. Don't think that it's an actual triple camera setup. It's actually a single camera setup. The only sensor that you should be using is the one that is actually labeled right here, the 50 megapixel camera. The two that aren't mentioned right here because they're absolutely effing pitiful are the 2 megapixel macro and 2 megapixel depth. The reason why they're not mentioned is no one will ever use them. They're a sticker camera. They're here just to kind of cloud your judgment, make you think that, oh, we have 3 camera setup, it must be good. No, it's not. It never is. So I'm not even gonna go into like trying to prove that these cameras are complete shit, because I have done that in the past with every other manufacturer that has included these cameras. I'm not just picking on this one, I'm picking on everybody who does this. So I have no gripe with Huawei including it. I have gripe with everybody who includes these cameras. Now moving on, at the front in the teardrop area, we have a 5 megapixel wide sensor. Now with all of these cameras you can shoot tops at 1080p 30 frames. That also includes back, which is again pretty low. Now moving further down the list, we have internals. So we are running right here, what are we running here? CPU octa-core. Very specific. I have no clue what processor we actually have in here. Let's see if we have anything on the box. Yeah, no, we don't. We have absolutely nothing about what it's running on, which is always a great sign when a manufacturer doesn't really provide you with info about what the phone is actually running on. So I'm gonna just check a deeper search. Maybe someone else did mention. Maybe someone took it apart and decided to give us that info, but okay, let's go strictly to Huawei and see what they have to say. CPU, oh yeah, CPU octa-core. Thanks Huawei, thanks. How about maybe some effing clocks for it, or the name of the processor that you're using? Or are you just too ashamed to actually admit that you're using some super outdated tech here? So yeah, that's a no bueno. I would be very sketched out by a manufacturer that on their main website, technically a non-manufacturer, decides to not give you any info about their processor. Leaves a little bit of confusion here, and also just makes it kind of sketchy, to be honest. So that's not a very good practice right there. So we're going to keep it at octa-core with no info how good this processor is. And moving down the list, we also have a 5000 mAh battery. I have no clue how well that battery will last with this device, considering I have no idea what the processor here is. So go figure. And that's about all the info that are like worth mentioning here. So another couple thing that I didn't mention is we have a fingerprint sensor on the power button right over here. And I believe we have NFC, though I could be wrong about that one. It looks like I am wrong about that one. Edit switches. Do we have NFC? Oh yeah, we do. Okay, so there we go. We do have NFC. So that's nice. We can pay with the phone if that's something that you want to do. But yeah, all in all, it's a technically a cheap device, or closer to actually mid-range pricing. But I'll be completely honest, and I tried to stay away from like saying if the phone is worth or not, but like you're paying almost a mid-range price for the phone that offers you low-end specs. And not only does it offer you low-end specs, it doesn't even specify what the actual specs here are in certain cases, like the processor, which is just, what the hell? So at the end of the day, it really runs on low-end specs with a 720p IPS display and no high refresh rate, no nothing. Processor being God knows what. Decent battery life. I mean, we have a 5000 milliamp hour battery in here, but rest of it is just kind of just low-end. So I don't really have anything positive to say about this device, to be completely honest, which has been the trend with Huawei. If their phones are good, they're significantly overpriced. They're basically going for like Samsung status, but if they're crap like this one, they're still overpriced because you can get other cheap phones at the same specs at an actual like $120 price range instead of the $190. So if you have a choice, I would probably skip this one. Main part of this, me saying also to skip this one, is the fact that this phone has no Google Play services whatsoever. So you don't got Gmail, Play Store, YouTube, all that stuff is just gone here. You have to find different solutions to deal with this problem. And paying extra for a device that isn't even worth on its own as a package of tech, overpaying for it and not having the actual thing that you'd expect from every other device that has, it just, in my opinion, kind of like an insult to your customer. So that's why I would try to stay away from this device. The practices that Huawei has been implementing right here are just, to me, a little bit overdone. They're a little bit too... I don't know how to even explain it. They used to be good. Maybe the phones used to be worth that much when they still had Google Play services and they were on the top of their game. Now they're not. Now they're below their game, and they're still trying to price their devices as though they're good, but they're not even good anymore. So that's kind of my opinion right here. So take it as you may. Now, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.